Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Marketing Demystified Beyond the Classroom, uh, our latest initiative to bring marketing concepts and practical examples, practical learnings from marketing gurus and marketing leaders for all aspiring marketers as well as existing marketing professionals. My name is Vikesh Dhyani. I'm a publisher and a marketer. I have worked for about 24 years with different publishing and information solution companies like McGraw-Hill and Pearson, LexisNexis, and I now am co-founder of a publishing company called Oakbridge Publishing. This initiative is brainchild of Harpreet Kaur, an ex-colleague of mine and a wonderful friend who has been pushing me for a while to do something for the marketing community because both of us come from a marketing background and we've seen the struggle that marketers often face. As a consequence, a lot of discussion that we used to have fructified into this initiative, and we hope it will provide tremendous value to both existing marketers as well as marketing aspirants. Our special guest today is Dr. Professor Ranjita Gupta, who is the faculty chair for placements and faculty of marketing at Soil Institute of Management, School of Business Design. The way we'll proceed is, I'll request both Harpreet and Professor Ranjita to introduce themselves one by one. And then we'll get into a very interesting topic, which is very close to my heart. This is translating business strategy into marketing strategy. And you'll find, as to why this is a very critical topic once we get into more details. So Harpreet, over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vikesh, for those kind words. And I am glad to be a co-panelist with Professor Ranjita on this episode. Like you said, this topic is very close to my heart also, because this is where the entire essence of how a business translates into marketing actually takes place. So let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Harpreet. I head marketing for Kangaroo Group. I have over 20 years of experience now. I have worked with various brands like American Express, IBM, HCL, and I am a marketer at heart, and I look forward to the discussion with Professor Ranjita. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Harpreet and Vikesh. So I'm very happy that this has happened. This kind of episodes are happening because as a professor of marketing, I always feel the gap that is there for the students where they don't understand what is the application of marketing strategy. So to give a brief about myself, I'm Dr. Ranjita Gupta. I'm currently an associate professor at Soil School of Business Design. I have about 30 years of experience. 10 years was spent in the industry and the last 20 years in academics. And the core areas which I love teaching is brand and consumer behavior, which is something which is very, very interesting and continues to evolve and always surprise me. So thank you so much for this initiative, Vikesh and Harpreet, and I look forward to participating and having a great discussion today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. So, so just to sum up the agenda for today's episode, we are going to talk about how business strategies can be broken into specific marketing strategies, how great marketing strategies can be designed, with clear marketing goals, breaking into marketing plans and actionable metrics. What are the components of a great marketing strategy? We're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about the process to identify clear quantifiable marketing goals and action plans. We're going to briefly touch upon marketing resource planning and budgeting, and ultimately how does all this result in marketing outcomes or outcomes for business rather, and the impact on marketing investments. In a way, today's topic is going to be very, very important for all marketing leaders, because we've seen that a lot of marketing leaders often struggle to be able to relate to the business strategy and translate it into a proper marketing strategy and go-to-market plans. So this is going to be very, very important for marketing leaders. However, even for marketing managers and marketing executives, it is very important to be able to see the big picture. And hence, this topic is going to be of enormous value to all marketers across different levels. So with that, I would request Professor Ranjita Gupta to take us through the importance of a marketing strategy, how it is linked with a business strategy, and enlighten us with her knowledge about this concept.
Thank you, Vikesh. I'll just share my screen and run you through some PPTs which I have prepared right now. Thank you. Right. So basically, when you look at how a business strategy translate to a marketing strategy, I'll quickly run you through, the emerging marketing environment, which I think all of us are very familiar with, where we have moved from a product market to a consumer's market. And that is where the challenge really lies, because the consumer has become an all-powerful entity where, everybody's trying to woo them. And here, the importance of strategy is to understand where we are heading. What is the basic objective, growth versus profit? How are you going to get there? What's the roadmap that organizations draw out for themselves? Where do you focus in terms of your existing customers, your new customers, your segmenting, targeting, your USP? And what is the marketing mix that you're going to go forward to? So when you look at something like growth versus profit, you have a lot of debate within organizations as to what are they pursuing. If you look at the example of say Reliance Jio, they are clearly pursuing a growth objective rather versus a profit objective. Whereas if you look at Airtel, they were looking at trying to do both. And look where the market went, because the consumers obviously moved towards the geo plan. And then when you look at the existing customers, what's the segmenting you're looking at, what kind of positioning? I always feel that a product per se is not good or bad. It's a strategy around it that makes it, really successful or fail. And then of course, how the marketers design the marketing mix. Where is the focus that they are going to have? Now, when you look at it in the current context, we just moved out of COVID and straight into another war, which is there, which is having an impact on marketers. The marketing budgets contract, and they try to cut corners. But does the organization have a focus in terms of short term and long term? So if you're cutting your marketing budget, will your top of the mind recall suffer? Will your unaided recall suffer? How is it that you're going to overcome those short term actions which you take, which is going to actually have an impact on your market share and your growth and your profit at some point of time? So these are some of the questions that marketers are constantly troubled with in terms of how to do that balancing act where they are achieving both growth, profit, and the customer segment is also happy and growing. When you look at the way that the sustainable competitive advantage works, you'll find that most of the time it is your competitor selection. Who are you targeting? Who are you fighting that war against? And here, when you look at it, what I really understand here is that the product market boundary selection becomes very, very important as to how you are looking at how your product is being used by the consumer. So when you look at something as simple as going to a movie or listening to music, how has that changed? Are the music companies done anything different? I think I was reading Nokia's CEO has said, we did everything right and yet we lost. So here the mobile phone itself has become a device which has actually substituted so many things that we as consumers are playing around with. It was meant for communication, it went on to become entertainment, it became games, it's become movies, it's become Netflix, it's become live music streaming, everything. So you see how the generic use of a product is actually pushing the traditional products outside the boundaries. You have the classic example of Kodak and Fuji. They were busy fighting a war amongst themselves in terms of the camera reels. And suddenly people didn't look at camera reels at all. You have an Apple phone, which is actually talking of short and an iPhone, where you create memories. They don't talk of anything which is to do with a mobile phone, except that they talk about privacy and what amazing pictures you can take. So when you look at your competitor selection, that is becoming a very, very important aspect of marketing strategy as to how do you choose whom you compete against. And you look at the telecom sector, at Airtel, Vodafone, and Idea were doing perfectly fine. And you had this Jio coming in and completely changing the scene. And today Jio is a market leader, and Airtel is struggling, and Vodafone and Idea, and we don't know where they are. So when you look at it, the way that you compete, of course, these are all part of your marketing mix, which I started off with. How are you creating your marketing mix, and what is finally your product strategy going to be like? And your product strategy is not something which is, in a silo or in a vacuum. You, as a business entity, everybody is responsible and answerable to so many stakeholders: your shareholders, your employees, your vendors. And now we have the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG. Everybody's talking about SDG, ESG, customer and the consumer. How is the customer different from the consumer? You have the Byju's success story, where you have the customer who is very different from the consumer. The parents are the ones who are paying, and the child is the one who's consuming. And they have to really look at the stakeholders in terms of, satisfying the both sets of the consumers. And trade association, industry federations, because they can act as very, very important pressure groups. So therefore, you find that the key stakeholders are very, very important over here. The statement, when you look at the designing of the marketing strategy, like I keep telling my students, it's a very structured way. The companies usually are very clear on where they want to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years, even 20 years from now. But it's just that their marketing plans have to be tweaked based on what the marketing environment throws at them. For example, when COVID came, none of us were prepared for it. And yet you'll realize that those organizations which survived were the ones which are the agile organizations, who are able to, redesign and reinvent themselves in very, very short periods of time and capture the consumer imagination. So you had an Amazon which started doing groceries ASAP because they realized that hygiene became a very, very important factor. People were stuck in their houses, and therefore deliveries became very important. And then now you have Blinkit. And now they are actually playing on positioning, which is on the delivery time. It's almost real time. You click on your phone and the doorbell rings with the delivery guy. That's the kind of delivery, 10 minutes delivery, 5 minutes delivery. As a consumer, did we really want it? We didn't ask for it. We were happy with a 3-hour delivery or a 2-hour delivery. But there are companies who are giving us, setting standards where we are, expecting now that there cannot be anything called as 24-hour delivery. Delivering next day is not acceptable. So therefore, you realize that, your entire strategy, how your company vision, mission translate into your corporate strategy, and then to the divisional, then the product brand, and the final tactics, where your sales force is out there, like the soldiers, like the infantry in the war, and fighting the battle out over there in the markets through the distributors, the retailers. You'll find that the 4 P's of marketing are equally important. Distribution sometimes gets lost because of the noise that, promotion and advertising and digital capture. But actually, finally, you realize that a lot of your marketing strategy is how your distributors as stakeholders are actually, reacting and, supporting your company. So that is the measuring points or your action points, your results, and your KPIs, right? So maybe here I could request Harpreet to, tell us what the action points, results, and your KPIs will be before I move forward.
Sure. Thanks, Professor Ranjita. So I think if you could go back to the previous slide where you spoke about, see, this is the entire discussion. Very beautifully you have summarized. So there is business strategy. So there is a business goal, right? Or before that, there is a business vision. There is a business vision which translates into a tangible business goal. Now, when I say a tangible business goal, it is X percentage growth which is required. Right now, I am doing 1000 CR in the first year. And then next year, I want to do a 10% or a 15% growth. So that is my business goal. That business goal translates into that particular brand strategy. So let us say that 1000 CR, which I'm planning to do, there are 3 or 4 brands from where I'm gunning this 1000 CR number, right? One brand could be 350 CR, the other could be 250 CR, and so on and so forth. So that business goal translates into the brand goal. So the brand goal for this year is 350 CR. So this 350 CR, you further break down that out of this 350 CR, what are the different activities by use of 4 Ps, which is product, which is pricing, which is placement, which is promotion. Using these 4 Ps, how am I going to deliver this 350 CR as a marketing lead for that particular brand? And that those use of those 4 Ps derives your further tactical. So this is your strategy. these broader strategic points are going to define your tactical points, that these are the uh, these four P's I am going to use in this way tactically to deliver on this business goal. Now, when I say tactically, it could be that these are the campaigns which I'm going to plan. This is the distribution strategy which I'm going to plan. So when I say distribution strategy, it could be I'm going to give, this is the channel marketing which I'm going to do. These are the schemes or promotions which I'm going to run this particular area. So let's say it's a pan India strategy. I'm talking about 350 CR, but my particular areas are not doing well. So to focus on these areas, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to focus on the distributor leg or the retailer leg. That could be one. It could be that my market share is not doing well. So it could be a market share exercise, which I'm going to do. It could be that everything is doing well, but my consumer, the resonance of the brand is not there. So the brand awareness activity, I'm going to do this because my NPS scores are not doing well. In this last bit, which is your tactical and the brand strategy, here a lot of data comes into play. So primary sales data, it could be secondary sales data, it could be FMC. I'm talking more from FMCD perspective. It could be how my primary sales are doing. So when I say primary sales, from company to the distributor, how my secondary sales are doing, which is distributor to the next leg. So whether my sell-in is difficult or whether my sell-out is difficult, whether a particular category in this brand is not doing well. So what is the strategy there? So what I'm trying to say is that the broader strategy is formed at bullet number 4. And then out of that bullet number 4, you define or those tactical drives which you are going to do. It could be activation plans. It could be category growth plans. It could be area specific growth plans. It could be, like I said, channel marketing. It could be QPS, which is quantity purchase scheme. It could be turnover discount, which you are planning to do. It could be nothing more than, it could be just a campaign, social media campaign, which you want to do. It could be a lead generation campaign you want to do. So this entire strategy at bullet 4 is going to define your tactics or your calendar or your marketing level calendar for the whole year. And then with these tactical points, you also define the matrix or the KPIs, that these are going to be my KPIs, which I'm targeting with these activities. So then you do the budgeting, then you do the resource allocation, which is what I spoke about this point as well.
Right. Thank you so much. So moving forward, when you look at I think Harpreet has just about summed it up. You have your brands, you have your, so when you look at the company's portfolio, and here you can look at the BCG matrix where you have stars and you have cash cows, you have question marks, and you have dogs. And here the company's focus, what is it that they're trying to do to their product portfolio, which will be the star brands, where will be the focus in terms of which brands will be carrying the discount, or the focus of, which will have the featured focus in terms of what, discounts or budgeting they will get. That becomes very important. What's your new product versus your old product mix? Are you introducing new products and creating a lot of hype in the consumers market? Especially when you look at the FMCG products. And FMCG, I realize, is the best market to actually explain, because it's the product itself are very dull, boring, and very everyday use products. But for them to make it exciting, a lot of positioning and a lot of strategies around it. There's nothing very exciting about brushing your teeth in the morning or shaving, but they create this Colgate will talk about fresh breath, energy, somebody singing with a guitar, and you have companies picking up Virat Kohli to endorse a brand like a V-John, right? So therefore you realize that your media mix, how you're going to look at products in terms of creating that excitement in the consumer's mind is a very, very key part of your marketing strategy. And this is not only in the FMCG. When you look at, say, the automobile sector, a whole lot of excitement is there in the automobile sector with the introduction of electric vehicles. How is it that a Maruti is reacting to a Kia or a Morris garages, right? And what is the next level of competition? You'll have a tectonic shift in the automobile sector with everybody moving to EV. So therefore you find that all these aspects of what is your media mix in terms of ATL and BTL, and especially when you look at BTL, this becomes very, very important because digital is becoming extremely important. You have the whole success story of Nykaa in front of us, and you find that Nykaa is nothing new. It is the same product, just presented differently. But you have the likes of Revlon and Nike and Lakme and Maybelline, who've been there for years and years together, struggling and running for cover because Nike has come up with a very, very smart digital marketing strategy where they've captured their, the positioning is very right. They've captured the youth market. They're coming up with new products every time you go to a Nykaa site, you'll find something added to that. So therefore, the execution, like Harpreet just talked about, is the devil lies in the execution. How are you? Everybody gets their marketing mix right because you're living and breathing that as marketeers. But what is it? What happens to that marketing mix once it is actually, translated into the strategy at the ground level? That's where you realize that, the leaders are the ones who are leading the charge, and there are people who are falling on the side. And unfortunately, the companies which are falling on the sides are the traditional marketing companies who've been there for a long period of time and who are the ones who says we know it all. And they realize that they don't know it all. And that is the whole challenge for marketers today, is to understand where the marketing environment is moving, and do we have to be one step ahead of that. And understanding of that marketing environment by the marketers, and like Harpreet keeps talking about the consumer insights. How is the consumer engaging and behaving with your product? How is it changing? And is your product right in the center of consumers,
Mind,
life,
perception, mind.
yeah, or is it it's moving towards the sides and you don't even know it? I was just looking at what Kellogg's is doing. It came as a breakfast cereal. By simply just packaging it as a 5 rupee packet for snacking, they have changed their product market, and now they're competing with the Haldiram for snacks because they realized that breakfast happens just once in a day, and people are using this. Children are using it as a snack. They just pick up a fistful and start eating. So they packaged it that way. 5 rupee ka you'll get a packet and you start snacking on that. Now, once they move from breakfast cereal to snacking, they are changing the entire marketing strategy. They are now competing with the Haldiram, with the Lay's, with the Bikaner, with everything which is to do with snacks, biscuits. So therefore, you realize that, just the way that a company which you may not think of competition, a Haldiram will probably thinking of what Bikaner Wala is doing, or Lay's is doing, or Parle G is doing. They wouldn't think what Kellogg's would be wanting to do. But the way that they've packaged it is just one simple packaging, innovation, and they have captured an entire market of children. So that is what is very important for marketers to understand in terms of where is the executing and what is it that your consumer is thinking. The calendarizing of your event. So like Harpreet just said, each part of your marketing mix has to have a date, time, and a key result area, KPI. What is it that your dealer is going to do? What is the retailer margin going to look like? What is it that competition is talking about? If I'm giving 10 rupees and the competition is giving 15, do I know it in real time and can I change it? Or does the market move away before I realize that is happening? So the same thing happened when you look at your consumer durable. You have a Samsung and an LG taking the entire market away from a Videocon and a BPL and a Godrej and a Whirlpool. They were doing pretty well. They didn't understand that retailer margin are the one which is changing the way the game. Your action point, your SPOC for each action. What is the time frame? The timing is very, very important. When is it that you're introducing it, and what is going to be the impact? Nykaa's success story is just about timing. They got it right in the first go, and they're just moving ahead and just charging ahead after that. What is your measuring mechanism? I think Harpreet had dwelt upon that in terms of how do you measure what is the success or otherwise of a particular kind of strategy that you're looking at, and what are the resources required. And most importantly, what most marketers do not really dwell upon is, do you have a plan B? So if your star product is failing or is not capturing consumer imagination, what is it that you're going to do next? Right, Vikesh, would you like to tell us anything that you have in terms of these kind of measuring mechanisms and resources and plan B especially?
Yes. So, first of all, Professor Gupta, I would like to, really thank you for, very seamlessly giving us a lot of these examples of how marketers need to be careful about changing consumer behavior, changes in the marketing and the business environment, and need to constantly evaluate and innovate so that their plans are not just they're not fixed plans on Excel sheets, but these are plans which are getting adapted and improvised upon according to the changing requirements of the market. which I think is very, very crucial. And it also helps a marketer remain on his toes and be very watchful about what their competitors are doing. How the overall system is undergoing a transformation. So yeah, so I think you've already covered upon some of these critical aspects, that how do you the need for calendarizing your strategy into actionable programs, and various elements that one needs to look at. I think the marketers also need to understand that what is the weightage that they're going to give to different elements and different actions, right? It's very important for them to be, because like you said, there are only limited resources that are available to them. So they got to prioritize that where am I going to get the maximum bang for my buck, right? And to be able to decide that very clearly, that what is it that I'm going to invest in branding, what is it that I'm going to invest in creating awareness, what is it that I'm going to invest in lead generation, and customer acquisition, and even capturing customer insights, and product innovation. So it's very, very important that the marketer is alert and is always looking out and is always tracking his progress across different elements that one has decided to invest in.
I would like to add something to what just Vikesh said on plan B. I think that's very, very critical, very important. So for example, let's say I'll go back to my, again, hypothetical example of 350 CR. 350 CR from brand A and 250 CR from brand B, right? Now 350, my goal as a business leader is to deliver 1000 CR. Because that is what my business is gunning for. Now, let's say brand A is not able to deliver 350 CR. Maybe the product innovation was not there. Maybe my marketing mix model did not work. Maybe the scheme which I ran on the distributor did not work. So in that case, I should always have, as a business planner or as a marketing planner, that if brand A is not able to deliver 350 CR, how is it that I'm going to work on the deficit from the other 3 brands which I have, right? So maybe the second brand which is gunning for 250 CR, and I know that if this 350 CR, because we have our monthly reviews, I know that this 350 CR is, I am thinking that, or it looks like that this is going to fall short by 50 CR. So that the brand B, how is it that from 250 CR, it is going to fill up that gap of another 50 CR, which has occurred because of brand A not performing up to the mark. So there, maybe I'll have to have that plan B, like she said, very clearly. Most of the businesses we don't have, but the proactive businesses always have this thought process in place. And I think historical data analysis helps there also, that, it has been historically observed that there are challenges with brand A meeting the target. So in that case, what are the different aspects which I need to plan for? Maybe by way of additional schemes, maybe by running those communications, maybe by bringing some new products. What is that I am going to do to mitigate that gap?
Yeah, and Harpreet, I'll just add, one more point here. As they say about Pareto's principle, right? 20% of your products, or your people, deliver 80% of your output, right? So that's where I think marketers need to be resourceful. That if a certain category is not performing very well, then which is that other second category, as you mentioned, that where I need to divert my resources and invest more in for accelerating and exceeding the originally intended plans in that category, so that the overall basket is still able to meet the goals that one had set for.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So here, when I look at it, one of the ways that you can look at your selection of your strategic alternatives, which is what we were talking about, as to what your strategy options can be. So this is the Answers growth share matrix, which is, I think, has been a very, very important aspect of all marketers to fall back on. You have a market penetration strategy, a market development strategy, a product development strategy, and a diversification strategy. So typically, when you look at a market penetration strategy, you will have a lot of FMCG companies following that, you have your HUL or Nestle or Patanjali, looking at playing on the pricing part of it. Because like when you look at the, the what are the aspects of this current products and current markets. So the company is pretty sure about what they've been doing for a long period of time, and therefore the marketing mix, which really is highlighted here, is more in pricing in terms of creating enough pricing options, and which is why you look at the product portfolios of most FMCG companies. It's a very large, because they want the consumer, they want to give the consumer a bouquet of price points. So a Lux soap is priced from 15 rupees to 75 rupees, depending upon which kind of customer is wanting to look at that. And then they also are even smarter, where they give you buy 3 and get 1 free. So they've blocked your usage of buying any other product like a soap for the next 1.5 months, because typically you won't be consuming that much soap if you're buying 4 together. And that pricing is so attractive when you look at them buying in bundles. So product bundling becomes very important in terms of when you look at the market penetration strategy. Similarly, when you move to a market development, the focus is where you are introducing a new product, a new in a new your current products in a new market, and therefore here the focus becomes on the customer. What is it that the customer is wanting? So when you look at the advent of a Coke or a Pepsi or a Kellogg's into the Indian markets, they spend the first 2 to 3 years or 5 years just trying to understand what is it that makes the Indian consumer tick. So when you look at the Coke strategy, initially Coke as a company never used to use any, uh, you know, uh, celebrity endorsements. They used to have a very broad strategy where Coke used to be the focus of their market, their entire advertisement. It took them about a year and a half to realize that cricket is the religion of India and Bollywood is the religion of India, and therefore they started hiring these celebrities to endorse their product. And here the market development, like the word suggests, the focus is on understanding the consumer insights as to what is it that the consumer is going to look at when they look at your particular product. So Kellogg's, it typically started off by telling us how unhealthy or how heavy a breakfast is, and how light and healthy and great Kellogg's is, and what are the kind of options that are given to us. And given the newness of that particular product, Indians started moving towards the cornflakes and the chocos that Kellogg's was offering. And Kellogg's, typically when you look at their their growth and their entry into at least India, you had milk as a product which was used in breakfast. When you look at China and Indonesia and other Southeast Asian companies, milk was not even part of their breakfast. And it took them about 10 years to introduce that. They kept, telling the consumer that milk is something which you use with chocos. And then you had an entire generation which grew up on Kellogg's. And soon these countries were also using milk as part of their breakfast, menu.
As an option.
And then you have the product development strategy where you start focusing on new products. And here I think I would like take the example of an ITC. An ITC and Tata and Aditya Birla, I think you will find them in every quadrant of the matrix of INSOF. So when you look at Birlas coming into something like introducing Idea, where they're looking at a new product, and it was very well diversified portfolio where they start looking at what they are telling the consumer what the product is all about. So what an idea, Sergi, was an excellent campaign which started off where they started introducing to the consumer what the product is all about, and the focus was on product development. And here, especially when you look at ITC, you look at the way that they launched and they came into FMCG with their Ashirwad. They came up with the concept of e-chopal first. They wanted to understand how the supply chain works for something like wheat. So they went to the farmers and they had the e-chopal. Now they're on version 4, where they started capturing the consumers, the farmers, by capturing their consumption of the entire crop of wheat. And then they started promoting the Ashirwad Atta. And now you have the entire range of grocery items which ITC is actually promoting. And ITC's, venture into a bingo chips was again a very, very interesting, development where they started diversifying. They came up with the idea of bingos. It took on Lay's as a very interesting, direct competitor. They came up with the Indianness of the chips. They came up with different mad angles, different flavors, and they entirely captured the consumer. So you realize that the Anson's growth share matrix actually helps marketers to understand. So like when Harpreet talks about those 350 crores and 250 crores, from which buckets are you going to get that money coming into your coffers, and ensuring that the company becomes a successful one. So that is why that's one thing which is very important here. So,
So,
like I told,
sorry, Professor Ranjita, if you
yeah.
could go to the previous slide, I would like to elaborate. So for example, current markets and current products, right? Market penetration strategy. Market penetration strategy could also be from customer perspective. See, there are three things here. One is that you increase the market share, right? That is also market penetration. The other thing is that, so let us say, so for example, I'll take example from my brands which I manage. There is a knife brand which I manage, which is called Kohe. Okay. So we have about 41 SKUs. Now, market penetration strategy could be that I have about 1,000 distributors who are selling these 41 SKUs. Not all of them will be selling the 41 SKUs. So it could be that out of these 1,000 distributors, only 200 are selling my entire assortment. Remaining 800 are not selling the entire depth. So achieving that depth and achieving the width, that is where the market penetration strategy comes into play. So my entire assortment, that is the width. And at each dealer, you get into the entire assortment, that is the depth. And as many distributors as possible who sell my brand, that is the width. So that is a market penetration strategy. And from consumer perspective, so this is from my customer perspective, from my channel partner perspective. From consumer perspective, market penetration could be the usage. So for example, let's take an example of a tea bag. So I'm let us say a tea drinker, but I drink tea only once a day. So it could be increasing my frequency. So if they run a campaign or run a drive where my frequency goes from 1 cup a day to 5 cups a day, so that is again a market penetration strategy. Whether you build a communication around that, whether you do drives around that. So that is something which is around market penetration strategy. Market development strategy is, so for example, Kohe, we are selling in India and we are selling in about 4 or 5 markets as of now, because we launched the brand in 2018. So we are trying to sell the brand in more and more markets. So whether it is raising the awareness. Now, when I say raising the awareness, it could be through exhibitions which we are participating in at international level. So bringing the consumer awareness through social media, through these events, through the exhibitions, or tapping those importers, partnering with these importers in those countries to sell my brand to them. So that is new market product development strategy. Whether it is partnering, whether it is through exhibition, whether it is through brand awareness, whether it is through social media. And then I'll talk about the product development strategy. So for example, in India, we have 41 products, like I said. I'm taking an example of this product so that it becomes easier to relate to. So we have 41 SKUs as of now. It is completely into pre-cooking range. We are now looking at venturing, or I mean, it's very early stage. It could be that we will venture into the cooking stage. So which is brand extension into a category which is relatable, which is in sync with my brand strategy for Kohe, but a completely new product development to cater to the needs of the existing market. And then if it's a new product, if it's a new market, then it is completely diversification strategy. So all these strategies are business strategies, which eventually boil down to the marketing strategy in terms of, again, the 4 Ps. Either it could be a product, which is the first quadrant, product development, or it could be pricing or promotion. Pricing could be the market penetration strategy. Promotion could be the market development strategy. So all these different strategies ultimately come into play in this entire matrix.
Would you like to say anything, or shall I move forward?
No, I think both of you have summed it up very nicely. And I think the point I'm taking from this slide is that marketers have to be looking at opportunities. So like Harpreet mentioned, from their current focus in a certain category on pre-cooking equipments to now looking at cooking equipments. That's a great smart way to look at one can consolidate oneself in certain markets. Because if you're going to deploy resources, if you're going to invest a lot in reaching that customer, then one has to also keep looking at what else can I market to this customer in that category. And especially, if there is no organized, available to customers in those markets, right? So can you bring in branded, stirrers or, such products, that can make a difference there. So it's like extending your product categories also
I
in
think,
those relevant markets.
yeah.
Yeah,
So even if you look at some a company like Asian Paints,
yeah,
primarily started with the paint, which was a basic painting, and then they went into textures and wallpapers and having moving to the B from the B2B to B2C, and having a customer interface, 1-800 numbers, interior decorators, painters, and now they're moving into sanitary and kitchens and everything which is like Harpreet said on the which is a natural brand extension for them. So from
yes.
walls to anything to do with the household, even if you're redesigning your bathroom, probably you'll be looking at an Asian Paint sanitary ware.
Thank you for watching another episode of Marketing Demystified. In this particular part of episode 5, we looked at one of the most important element of a marketer's journey, which is deriving marketing strategy from business strategy. So some of the key things which we discussed were how business strategies can be translated into marketing strategy. What could be various business objectives? Is it growth? Is it profitability? Is it market share growth? So out of this, or rather, a step back is business vision, then business strategy. And out of this, how business strategies can be translated into marketing strategies broadly, and then how marketing strategies can be divided into micro goals, plans, calendars, based on what the consumer requirement is, based on what your 4 P's are. What is that marketing mix in terms of products, pricing, or promotion, which you can uh, tinker with or play with to cater to the consumer demand? How can you tie up both the pieces together for overall business outcome? And we also looked at Ansoff's growth share matrix for defining the business slash marketing strategy. We looked at an example of ITC's Ashirwad to understand this matrix better. We will soon be coming up with part 2 of this episode. If you like the content, do stay tuned and like it, share, and comment for further reach and for benefit of wider audience. Thank you.